started offending people. I know I can't make everybody happy. I know that. But I try anyway, because that's the kind of person that I am. So, we are going to talk about the sand dunes women today. I actually had never heard of this case so specifically, but I guess I'm stuck in 1966 lately, and this one also happened in 1966. So, on a hot, sunny summer Saturday, 3 young women in bathing suits left all of their belongings on a crowded beach and climbed into a motorboat on Lake Michigan. It was noon, July 2nd, 1966, at the Indiana Dunes State Park, about an hour around the lake from Chicago. I used to live in Indiana, but it was more closer to Indianapolis. I've never been to the Dunes State Park, but I hear that it's beautiful, but dangerous. A couple whose beach blanket was beside the young women's watched as the motorboat glided away, and then they waited all day for them to return. They didn't know the girls, but thought that it was really odd that they would leave their purses unattended on a day when the park was packed with more than 9,000 holiday weekend sunbathers and swimmers. When the couple left at dusk, they pointed out the abandoned blanket to a park ranger and told them that the young woman had left on a boat that was operated by a young man with a head full of dark, curly hair. The ranger bundled up the belongings and stored them away. Personally, I think this is really awesome. How many times do we just ignore everything around us? And, it's nice to believe that there are good-hearted people out there that would say something, because most people would just walk away and never report anything. Anyway, a day and a half later, on July 4th, Park Superintendent Bill Svetic took a call from a Chicago man inquiring about his daughter, Patty Blough, age 19. She had not been heard of since leaving home for the Indiana Dunes with 2 friends on Saturday morning. Svetic opened the blanket bundle that had been left on the beach and found Patty's wallet, keys, and clothing. He also found clothes and purses belonging to Patty's 2 friends, Renee Bruhl, age 19, and Ann Miller, age 20. Ann's car, a 1955 Buick, was still sitting in the beach parking lot. Svetic assured Harold Blough that his daughter would turn up. She had probably just had too much fun over the holiday weekend. Right. But Patty did not show up, and neither did her friends. An investigation began belatedly as scuba divers scoured the lake, and searchers on putback and horseback combed the sprawling sands of the woods of the park. Sand and woods of the park, which stretches 45 miles of the Indiana coastline. But they never found any sign of the young women. In fact, they're still missing, and their fate remains one of the enduring unsolved mysteries of their region. What happened to these 3 young women? It's possible that there are some clues that might stand out when we trace their movements on the day of their vanishing, and even in the days that came before. On the morning of July 2nd, Ann Miller drove her Buick and picked up Patty Blough from her family's home in Westchester. The park rangers soon learned that the missing persons report had been filed for all three women over the weekend in Illinois by their families. And, like I said, located the Buick in the parking lot. The keys had been left with her purse on the beach, but other items of clothing and personal effects were still inside of the car. The car was parked in the same spot that it had been left on July 2nd. It had not been moved. Park rangers soon got other law enforcement agencies involved, including the Coast Guard. The search was in full swing by July 5th, 3 days after the girls vanished. Other witnesses who were in the park that day came forward with conflicting stories about what had happened, as usual, but authorities came to believe that the first witnesses' report were the most reliable. The three women were seen boarding a boat, and they did not return to the beach. The search for the three women continued around the clock. It was extended to a 6-mile stretch of the beach. I almost said beast. Beach west of the state park near Ogden Dunes later in the week. More witnesses came forward that substantiated the initial report that the women got into a boat with an unidentified man. Later accounts claim that he was in his early 20s with a tanned complexion and dark wavy hair. He was wearing a beach jacket at the time. A beachgoer who was taking home movies on July 2nd offered his films to investigators. The search was narrowed down to 2 boats after detectives watched the footage. One of them was a 16-foot runabout with a 3-hold design, operated by a man who fit the description of the man seen with the girls. 3 women who matched the descriptions of the missing girls were seen aboard the boat in the footage. The second boat was identified as a 26-foot cabin cruiser with 3 men and 3 women aboard. It was seen around 3 p.m., 3 hours after the women got aboard the smaller boat. After reports came in that Anne, Patty, and Renee were seen walking on the beach and eating after this time, investigators came to believe they had been dropped off on the beach west of the state park by the driver of the smaller boat, while he drove back to retrieve his 2 male friends and the larger boat. While on the second boat, the girls were reportedly approached by another unidentified man who accompanied them to the cabin cruiser. Witnesses stated that this second boat was equipped with a radio/telephone antenna, but did not have a name painted on its stern. The final sighting has never been confirmed, but authorities did consider it reliable. The search went on, and lead after lead went nowhere. A psychic that was brought onto the case claimed to have a vision of a Lake Michigan cabin where the women's bodies were buried. An extensive search of the property believed to be the place seen by the psychic did not uncover any evidence. However, detectives did point out that the shifting sand dunes may have buried any possible evidence deeply under the ground. Investigators began looking into the backgrounds of the 3 women in an attempt to discover if their disappearances could have been voluntary. And it was there that things got even murkier and stranger. In Renee Bruhl's purse, the authorities found a letter addressed to her husband, Jeff. The couple had been married for just 15 months in July of 1966, but in the letter she asked for a divorce. She said that she felt like her husband spent too much time working on cars with his friends and did not seem to have any time for her. Her husband, though, told the police that he was not aware of any problems in their marriage at the time of his wife's disappearance. Her family agreed with that statement, telling investigators they believed that she had written the note in a moment of anger, but never gave it to Jeff because she had changed her mind about the divorce. But that might not have been all there was to the story. All 3 women were friends. They were drawn together by their love of horses. Patty and Anne met while boarding their horses at the same Illinois stable. Renee was a classmate of Patty's, and the women often rode together and met at a tavern in Hodgkins, Illinois, after their outings. According to a theory created by Dick Wiley, a reporter and photographer who chased crime in northwest Indiana for the Gary Post Tribune and Chicago Sun-Times during the that she was about 3 months pregnant in July of 1966 and mentioned going to a home for unwed mothers prior to her disappearance. But did she have plans to end her pregnancy? And what about Patty? Was she pregnant as well? Abortion was illegal in Illinois in 1966. According to Dick Wiley, some Chicago men who found themselves in trouble visited a house just across the state border in Gary, Indiana, where a husband and wife team, Helen and Frank Largo, performed backdoor abortions. Wiley linked the Largos, now dead, to a floating abortion mill that operated on a houseboat offshore of Lake Michigan. He believes that Anne and Patty arranged abortions on the boat July 2nd, and they were ferried there by Ralph Largo Jr., a nephew of Helen and Frank. He was last seen at the park that day and matched the description of the man last seen with the girls on the beach. Creepy. Wiley believes that the women got onto the larger boat, but something went wrong with one of the procedures, and the other two were killed so that there were no witnesses left behind. The girls left their belongings on the beach because they expected to be back in 90 minutes. Wiley said, "This theory has not been confirmed, and the younger Largo died in 2009, but it's plausible. However, unless someone's body shows up, it's likely to remain just a theory." But of course, it's not the only one. There have been many unconfirmed sightings of the three women over the years, but no solid leads have ever surfaced. The boats that they were allegedly on in July of 1966 have never been located, and the men operating them have never been solidly identified. But of course, people have continued to speculate, especially when it comes to their connection with horses. Anne, Patty, and Renee often rode at the Tricolor Stables in Palatine, Illinois, which was owned by George Jane and his brother Silas Jane, who were involved in fraudulent activities, murders, and worse. Cheryl Ann Rood, a young man associated with the horse market, was killed at Tricolor Stables in June of 1965 by a car bomb that had been meant for George Jane. George had asked Cheryl to move his Cadillac from the stable entrance, and the bomb had exploded. Some believe that perhaps Patty, Anne, and Renee, or any combination of the three, may have witnessed the bomb being planted. However, this doesn't explain why anyone would have waited an entire year before silencing them. Or does it? In March 1966, Patty received a facial injury that she never explained. One of her friends claimed that she made an offhanded remark about it and mentioned trouble with syndicate people. I don't really know what that means, but no proof there's so many other options than that, and if that's really what happened, I'm so sad for them. I'm sad for the fact that they felt like they had to go through that at all. And then if something went wrong and the other two were murdered unnecessarily, it's just terrible to think about what they could have done to them. I do think it's very, very weird that if they did something to them, there's no way they could have, well, maybe. I feel like their bodies would have been found if they were thrown overboard or even weighted down. Like 1966 was a long time ago. By now, obviously they would have deteriorated and possibly could just be bones at the bottom of Lake Michigan, which is a horrible visual, and I'm sorry I just gave it to you. But I have to live with it, so now so do you. I just can't. I don't think I would ever get on a boat. Okay, let's just scratch the abortion thing for just a minute. Let's just say they were out there just having a good time playing in the water of Lake Michigan, and this guy approaches them and he's like, yo, I have this boat and we're having a party and you should really come because you're cute or whatever. I would have been like, yeah, okay, let me go get my bag, because I don't leave my purse anywhere. Even if I don't have any money, I'm not gonna get on a boat and leave my purse unwatched. Like, I have enough trouble bringing. I would have left it in the trunk of the car. I probably would not have brought it out to the beach. It's 1966. They're not playing on their cell phones. They're not, you know, I don't know, playing a game or whatever. Why do you need your wallet? Just grab a couple bucks, you know, stick it in your shoe or whatever to get a drink or whatnot. But I don't know, it's just a strange. I wouldn't leave all my belongings on the beach and go out for a spin on somebody's boat. I understand maybe they didn't want to lose their place, and 1966 was a completely different time than now. It just amazes me. I talk about this in my other video, the generational gap. Like, I always tell my nieces, they have it so lucky because when I was in high school, you had to hope that when you called a guy, his brother didn't answer the phone and make fun of him, or you didn't call during dinner time and the mom yelled at you, or you call at 7:30 and it's too late to get phone calls. So I can't imagine how different life was in 1966. I imagine that people were not as apt to be untrusting. Maybe they did just leave their purses on the beach. You know, they figured, whatever, I don't have any cash anyway. I got a quarter, let them take it. I don't really know. Times are so different that I can't. Maybe I should ask my mom about it. She would have been 22. Yeah, right around the age of these ladies. I should ask her if she would leave her purse on the beach. Just seems strange to me. What do you guys think happened to these three ladies? Do you think they got on this boat and something happened to them and they were thrown overboard, or sometimes there is discord